Hi, it's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to my channel where I make a lot of cake and cookie decorating tutorials as well as give a lot of baking business tips. And as per usual, please stay till the very end of the video where I give you my custom pricing for this particular cake. So today we're starting off with a marbled cake, which was really simple to make. I just took my favorite vanilla cake recipe and my favorite chocolate cake recipe, and I alternated the batters in the pan, and then I swirled it all around with a chopstick. Now I'm making this cake for my sister-in-law, and her absolute favorite cake is the Tuxedo cake from Save On Foods. If you're a Canadian, you probably know that brand. It's basically a grocery store. And I myself have eaten this cake many times, but truthfully, I couldn't pinpoint exactly what was in it, so I quickly read the description, and it looked like there was some sort of mocha ganache in there, as well as the chocolate mousse, and I think there was a white chocolate mousse as well, but I didn't have any white chocolate on hand, so I decided to just go all with chocolate elements inside of the cake and finish it off with American buttercream. And we'll go back to that American buttercream in just a moment here, but firstly, I am going to be finishing off this mocha ganache, which basically I flavored with an instant espresso powder. Since this is going in the center of the cake, I don't need it to be super solidified, and I want it to have a really creamy feel when people bite into it, because that is how the ganache is in this particular cake. So I'm going to do a very close, almost 1-to-1 ratio. 175 grams of whipping cream to about 200 grams of chocolate. Moving along to the American buttercream. Now you guys know I generally like to use Italian meringue buttercream. I've also tried out a lot of other different types of buttercreams along the way on this channel, but we're going with American because I need something that's going to be sturdy on the outside, since this is going to be a semi-naked cake. Now, semi-naked cakes are easy, but there is a certain way that you need to approach the cake decorating in general with this. Because there's not a whole lot of room to hide things, you do need to make sure that the steps here, especially leveling out the cakes, is fairly perfect or as close and precise as you can get it. You'll notice that I spent a little bit of time there kind of turning the cake around, really trying to see where the lowest point was that I could start cutting it where it would stay nice and even the whole way through. Because when you stack these layers, you really can't fake too much with the buttercream because the layers are going to be showing through. I tend to fake things with buttercream a lot when they're not perfect, and it's no big deal, especially if you're fully covering it with another coat of buttercream, or you're texturizing it, or you're covering with fondant. But I find with semi-naked cakes, you have to be really careful about this because there's not too much to hide behind. This particular cake decorating technique is perfect for beginners, especially if you want to make your own wedding cake. This is a great place to start. But if you do want to get a little bit fancy and add in fillings into the center, this is where things can get tricky. And I remember when I first started cake decorating, I thought, wow, making a semi-naked cake will be super easy. It's basically just doing a crumb coat and then stopping. But if you mess it up with the fillings leaking out, it can turn into a disaster rather quickly. So you want to make sure that you give a really generous buttercream dam all the way around here. I wouldn't try this with anything looser than a buttercream. For example, if you try to do this with whipping cream, you definitely can. I just think that you're going to have a much easier time with something like an American buttercream. And if you are worried about leakage or you aren't really that confident with a piping bag, then I suggest that you just fill your cake with a vanilla buttercream to make things really easy on yourself. I like to give my cakes a good little pat, really make sure that all of those layers are together and that all of the filling is actually touching. And then I took off a little bit of that excess that kind of leaked out, just a little bit off. But notice that the excess that I took off was just American buttercream. It was not any of the fillings coming out. Don't panic if that happens though. All you need to do is place the whole cake in the fridge for about 30 minutes and then go back and cover up a little bit of that spot with some American buttercream. Make sure you kind of spatula off the rest of the excess and then place it back in the fridge for another 30 minutes. This again is why I like to use American buttercream for this particular cake design. Everything is going to crust over really nicely and it's going to solidify so that you can do the final step here of actually coating the cake in a semi-naked manner, which again is a crumb coat. However, there is a slight difference with it. You're being a little bit more careful so it won't pick up as many crumbs. So you'll notice that I did pipe lines on there, and then I did the crumb coat kind of carefully, really trying to put that spatula back and forth so we're not picking up too many crumbs, because sometimes this look can end up just looking like crumb central. We just want to see a few of those lines coming through. This is also why I'm using my torch here. I want to get this really nice and smooth, whereas with a crumb coat I might not care that much, but because this is the final coat that's going to be showing, I do want it really nice and smooth with just a few of those lines peeking out. It doesn't mean that no crumbs are going to show, it just means that we're not making it a huge kind of crumb coat that looks like Oreo is laid in throughout this. Now, because there's chocolate mousse in between all of these layers, I did put it in the fridge overnight to really solidify everything up before attempting to stack this. I am using some bubble tea straws here. Really, there is no right or wrong amount of straws unless your straws are not supportive enough. So you just want to make sure that you're being really supportive and make sure that you put in a nice centered dowel. I absolutely love stacking cakes that are nice and cold and chilled through and through. And stacking with American buttercream is infinitely easier than any other buttercream because it really does crust on the side, so you have nothing to worry about and nothing on the outside gets wrecked at all. You'll notice that my layers have slight gapping in between them, and I did do this purposefully. It's so that I have a little bit of room and space in between so that I have no chance of the cakes crushing each other at all, because all of that weight is on the straws themselves. Then I'm going ahead and I'm taking my piping bag and I'm just filling in those gaps, and this is the beauty of the semi-naked cake. It really kind of hides all those imperfections and everything just blends together very well. I then put the whole cake back in the fridge for about 20 minutes as I got all of these flowers prepped. These flowers here were about $44 from my local flower shop. They're super beautiful, and I really don't see these colors in your everyday average floral place. So I was very happy to find them because my sister-in-law wanted a very particular color. I'm just wrapping all of these with a little bit of tin foil so that I can just place them in the cake. And actually what we ended up doing is once the cake was done, we took out all of the flowers and they just removed really nicely from the foil, and we ended up being able to put them in vases afterwards, and my sister-in-law got to enjoy the flowers well after the party too. Flower placement is really important as well. I had to think about this. I wanted to make sure that I could fit on all of the flowers that I purchased, and if you're making this cake for somebody else, I always say that I want to try and put on as many of the client's flowers as possible. However, I do warn them that not all of the flowers might make it on there, but the more flowers you can pack on there, the better in my opinion. But some people do like simplicity. Now this cake can go back in the fridge as is, but I do recommend that you always try and put those flowers on at the very last minute just to maintain the flowers' freshness. Now let's get into the pricing of this cake. It's pretty straightforward. This would be a custom order only for $450 Canadian for a 3-tiered. And this particular 3-tiered is an 8, 6, and 4 inch, but it would be the same for a 10, 8, and 6. Now let's get into the subscriber submission of the video. This is a delicious looking red velvet cake covered with buttercream frosting. If you guys want to see more things like this, then be sure to go and follow them, drop them a like, and drop them a comment. And if you want to be the next subscriber submission of the video, then please follow me at SD Bake Shop on Instagram, where you can either tag me in a photo or send me a photo. Any and all dessert levels are welcome. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!